So my answer is neither yes nor no. I cannot say that we should provide a more reasonable or appropriate list, nor can I say that we cannot produce a more reasonable or appropriate list and the one in DN22 and MN10 are good enough. Why do I say that? Well, as we can see in section 2, all the introspections there are about understanding one's own mind. And as you all know, there are comprehensive lists of mental states for a wide range of personal activities, ranging from worldly activities to even deep spiritual cultivation. As I observed earlier in the summary of these excerpts, all of these are accompanied by right effort, whereas the modes in the first section are confined to mere acknowledgement. Now, although section 2 clearly shows the nature of Cittānupassanā, or rather the scope of Cittānupassanā, the range and permutations of mental states are limitless. Although we have more comprehensive lists in section 2, they are by no means complete. There's no end to the permutations of mental states that can occur according to different situations in different individuals, because each of us have got different inclinations and temperaments. Some are more prone to anger, some are not so prone to anger, and some people are born cool and calm by nature. And so this varies from situation to situation and from person to person. Therefore, it is best not to specify any mental states at all, but stick to the most general of all statements, which is found throughout the suttas, not only in Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, but throughout the Tipitaka, especially in all the suttas and even in the Vinaya. The most basic and general of all instructions is that one should dwell repeatedly observing the mind in the mind, ardent, clearly aware, mindful, having put away covetousness and dejection in regard to the world. Full stop. That's all. And that's why there's a good reason why the Buddha did not elaborate on that. Because to give any details would limit the range and scope of Cittānupassanā. However, as I said earlier, because it is so general and all-inclusive, it is rather difficult for a beginner to start the practice. What do you mean by observing the mind in the mind? Here I wrote it as the mind, but in actual fact, the literal translation should be observing the mind in the mind, just as you observe the body in the body, feelings in feelings, dhammas in dhammas. So perhaps out of good intentions, the ancient elders decided to compile the two Satipaṭṭhāna Suttas in DN22 and MN10 with more details, at least for the beginner to start somewhere. For beginners, it might be a good idea to start somewhere, particularly you have some guidelines like the first 3 pairs of the 8 pairs. And as you all have observed, the last 4 pairs are only for people who are in deeper states of meditation, whereas the first 4 pairs are more for worldly purposes as well as for beginners in meditation. However, this is only talking about Cittānupassanā. I have serious apprehensions about the list that was given under Kāyānupassanā, the list of 14 exercises. Because as I pointed out, the word anupassana means repeated observation. That's why I prefer that translation rather than contemplation, because contemplation implies reflection, thinking, whereas anupassana, or repeated observation, is just observation without necessarily having any reflections or thinking about what is observed, apart from identifying what the mental state is. For example, I've already pointed out to you that out of the 4 tetrads in Anapanasati Sutta, MN 118, only one of them is included in MN 10 and DN 22 under Kāyānupassanā. There, the first tetrad is included in Kāyānupassanā as one of the exercises. Whereas the other 3 are absent. They are not to be found in Vedanānupassana, they are not to be found in Cittānupassanā, they are not to be found in Dhammanupassana either. Instead, under Kāyānupassanā, we have certain exercises which are more than just mere observation. For example, the 32 parts of the body. This is not just mere observation. This is imagining, and then visualizing, and then looking at them in terms of disgust, in terms of loathsomeness. So there is a lot of additional mental activity involved. And then the last one, the 9 cemetery or charnel ground contemplations, also involve active thinking. It's as if you saw a corpse in the charnel ground. Whether you actually see it or not, you could just imagine it. And then you reflect. I am of the same nature. I am also subject to this. And I'm not free from this state. So this is actually active reflection. It is not just repeated observation. Furthermore, in Kāyānupassanā, the 3rd exercise is on acting with clear awareness. Now, why is clear awareness only found in Kāyānupassanā when it is part of the general principle applicable to all the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas? If you look at this, he dwells repeatedly observing the body in the body, feelings in feelings, mind in mind, dhammas in dhammas, ardent, clearly aware, mindful, having abandoned or having put away covetousness and dejection in regard to the world. So this being mindful and clearly aware is a quality, a prerequisite that is required for all the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas, not only confined to Kāyānupassanā. This sort of corroborates my conclusion that these 2 Satipaṭṭhāna Suttas, DN 22 and MN 10, are actually later compilations, not the actual words of the Buddha. They were done probably with good intentions in order to give some guidelines to beginners, because the stock phrase that was used by the Buddha throughout the Tipitaka was too general and too all-inclusive and without having any specific details. Okay, so this is my conclusion for this section. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to express them.